So let's dive in. So today is all about creating interactive student reviews, how we can do that within Lumio. I'm having such strange Wi-Fi, so I'm going to just restart my Lumio page here. I noticed my images are not coming in. No, I'm just going to start this one. See if this works. There we go. All right, and then Kathleen's back in. So before we dive in, I'm actually going to have you join my class as students. So I'm going to um, pop this a link in the chat. If you can, awesome. If you are driving, just be safe. I'm going to have you join my class as students. So if you click that link in the Zoom chat, that's going to bring you to the student login page if you just say join as a guest. And then you'll put your name in, and then you should be in my class. This is a way for you, one, to see that student side. It's very important that you understand the student side if you are going to turn this around with students in class with devices. So I always walk teachers through that student side. Also, you'll see what it looks like from the student perspective. Like, what do assignments look like? What do activities look like from the student side? So we'll be there first, and then we'll dive into that teacher perspective. Links to any slide on Lumio. So you'll see down below here, this is a link. There's going to be this small blue box in that link that the students can click on, and we'll pop them out to a different link. So just keep that in mind. So that's your agenda. Highly recommend saving this somewhere. And you'll have all the access to all the resources down below here. You'll see all of the Lumio resources as well as some other links that we'll talk about at the end of today's session. You'll also get a copy of today's file and then some information down here as well for how to contact me after today. The big goal here is that we'll utilize Lumio to create interactive reviews that engage students and also highlight their learning. We'll experience Lumio from that student perspective, like I said, and then we'll dive into that teacher side and we'll build a couple activities together. But I just want you thinking throughout how will these activities help students demonstrate their learning. So one more time for those that maybe came in a little bit late, I'm going to pop this link in the chat so you can join my session. So one thing that you can do in Lumio is import from outside. So if you're a PDF user or Google Slides, PowerPoint, Canva, you can bring in slides from other areas. So if you don't like the editing tools in Lumio, you can bring in slides, but then turn it into that interactive space so the students can interact. So I'm an aesthetic person. I like things to look aesthetically pleasing. So I actually made this in Canva and then I brought it into Lumio. And here is a really good way to do a quick self-check with your students. How did you feel about today's learning? This question is actually asking you, where are you on your Lumio journey? All I needed to do in Lumio was pull it in. And then right down below here, you'll see a couple different cars. There's a green one, a blue one, and red one. I added these images and I just needed to use what is called our infinite cloner tool. So a lot of you might have done some sort of idea like this in Google Slides, but in Slides, you have to copy it and then stack it on top of each other. We actually have an infinitely cloned tool. So what I would have my students do in just a second is pull out a car and tell me where you are on your Lumio journey. So what I need to do is in any slide of my presentation, so all the other slides can be direct instruction, but if this is the one slide I want them to interact with, I just need to come to my classroom management tab and I have three options here asking me how I want to convert this page to what type of activity. Is this going to be an individual thing? Is it going to be a group, a small group activity? Or for me, I want to actually make this a whole class whiteboard space. I've always liked using a nice little whole class whiteboard tool. So this is amazing that I can quickly do this in Lumio. I just need to change it into a whole class. And then in just a second, you guys should be able to hit resume on your end or start, and you'll be able to drag one of these cars into a space on the road. So on a whole class whiteboard space, any contribution that's added to the page, I can actually click on it. So I can see Chad, he's saying he's developing. So this is a really cool tool for the teacher to, is to see who added what. Um, I can also, maybe something like this. I have 20 something students, all these cars start populating and they just can't handle it. I can actually turn off editing access and say, hey guys, remember we're pulling out one car and adding it to the road. So I do have that ability and that classroom management tools as a teacher for whole class whiteboard spaces. This next activity is a quick shout it out. Again, just an easy way to get quick student feedback and just ask quick questions to them that I want responses to. So I'm just going to say start for class. And on your end, you should get a little text box that says, it gives you a little area for you to write your answer. I want you just to answer this question. How do you how do you have students show their learning in your classroom? Like how do you have them show their learning? Is it through projects, tests, exit tickets, what have you? You should be able to type there in that text box and then send it my way. All right, so Chad said mastery checks, quiz tests, exit slips, bell ringers, all the things all sound really good to me. And if I had more students, I know it's a small group today, I would start seeing all of their little responses populate here. So you know what? Just for the sake of today, I'm going to say new incognito window. This is how you can beat the system a little bit. Join as a guest. 246. 157, call myself me. So when I was in the classroom, and this is a little workaround, by the way, if you ever want to see how your lesson looks from the student side, use an incognito window. Here I use a lot of project-based learning. I did a lot of like quizzes, and I always had some sort of bell ringer and exit ticket. Exit tickets are not as often as bell ringers were because, life happens in the middle of your lesson and then the time is expired. I'm like, oh, didn't have time for the exit ticket. But bell ringers, I for sure always had. And then you'll see over here, there's my response right here. So it's very similar to that like old school poster activity. And they came out with their post-it note with their ideas. You've just kind of made it more technology, more technology there instead of having to have all the post-it notes and all the things. But thank you for indulging me there. So we'll walk through a couple different examples. Obviously, these examples go cross-curricular just because it says math and ELA there. That doesn't mean that you can't use this in other areas. Also, the three main buckets that I'm showing you today, multiple answers, drag and drop, and some other examples. That's not the end all be all ways that you can use Lumio for creating interactive reviews. These are just some examples of how I did it in Lumio. So this is multiple answer or multiple choice. If I go to the next slide here, this was very simple to make in terms of maybe at first, when I first did this, when I was first teaching, I would have had to print out all of these little slips and maybe even passed out pencils to each kid and just a lot of time where I could have just used one of Lumio's graphic organizers here. So this is a 2-column organizer. And I just changed the words to say question, answer choices at the top. I put my answer or my question here. What's really nice, and I had a chance to talk to Chad here. Some areas of contents like chemistry, higher level math, or just math in general, sometimes when you go to type those things out, it can be really frustrating because it's not how it's supposed to look. We actually have an equation editor in Lumio for both chemistry and math. So I used a equation editor here, but all I would want my students to do is read this problem. I want them to drag these 2 check marks to the 2 correct answers here. And I'm going to delete that. And I infinitely clone the check mark. And then all they need to do is use a text tool here at the bottom to respond. So in just a second, I am going to turn this into an individual handout space. And now each kid has their own copy of that review. Once they hit start, they can start interacting with it. I have a clean teacher handout down here. And in this clean teacher handout, I'm going to show you just a couple tools. So you have a pen tool here. So maybe instead of you dragging the check mark, I just have them circle the right answers. Or I have this A tool here, which is a text tool. So if they click on A and then click in the space, they can write their explanation right here of why they chose. I really like this review because this is very similar to, I feel like, a state testing type of question. Pick two answers, explain your reasoning. And then I was just talking to Chad. I'm so glad you actually brought up. He was looking for some sort of translation document. So in the toolbar for the students, they'll see this little book icon. So if they click on this book icon, it will actually highlight all the text on the page. So if they click here to what are the domain and the range of this function, it will read it to
What
them.
are the domain and range of the function?
It will also, if the book icon up here, and remember we are recording, so if you have to go back to this recording and see where certain things are, we are recording. You have this book icon and there's this translate feature, and I can actually translate it to the language I need it to be. So if I say Spanish, Mexico, I just need to swipe on the document, and now
¿Cuáles son el dominio y el rango de la función?
they have that problem in both Spanish and the original, Spanish original. So you're meeting the needs of a lot of students here. One, you're meeting them maybe that language translator. Maybe I add an image of what this function looks like in a graph, so visual, auditory, all the things right there. So that's a little bit about student reviews. And if I jumped into Chad's, I can actually see him working in real time too. So if he pulled that check mark out or started to type, I would see in real time how he was doing. All right, let's go to the next one. So the next example we'll do here is called response. So this is the closest thing that you would have in terms of a formative assessment tool in Lumio. Most of the other things are not phrased to be formative assessment type style tool, but if I click start for class, you could, in response, in theory, you actually have the ability to do all types of questions. So I can do a multiple choice. I can do a true and false. I can do an open-ended type of style question. I can do a word cloud. I can do a polling question. So you do have the ability, kind of like Google Forms, to change the type of question on each of the questions. So if Chad, if you could do me a huge favor and just like pick like two answers, it does not have to be correct. So as they're working, I can see show live results. I can see in real time how the students are doing, hide results. And then if I go to the second problem, just put like a random word here. Doesn't have to be accurate to the problem. See, yep, perfect. So this word cloud is woo, yeah. You can see I can see the responses in a word cloud or also list view. What's nice about response is if I hit end activity, maybe everyone has finished, I would know because it would say like 100% of my students answered this and they're finished. I would say end activity, end in review. And what's nice is this is the only activity right now as we speak that lets you export student results. So if I click on export result, it would change, it would take all the data and put it in a Excel sheet for me. So this is the only assignment that gives you that option. So just keep that in mind. If you're ever looking for something like this, you would need to use what is called response. And I think we'll have some time based off of like the small group here to build a lot of these out together. Another way, another strategy is open-ended. So how I did this here is I wanted to demonstrate how you can pull in PDFs. So for me, I always loved a good PDF. I loved a good worksheet, but something like this, when I'm having them use active reading strategies, I probably would have had to print out this worksheet. I would have had to give them one green pen, one red pen, because I want them to underline the positive effects of student or of social media and the negative effects of social media up here as they're reading. So for me, saves me a lot of time. all I needed to do was one, I brought in all the pages of the PDF. So you'll see here all of the pages of the PDF. But I added this green and red option up here at the top. So as they're reading, they just need to pull down a green and they just need to pull it down here. And as they're reading, tell me what are some of the negative strategies, but also what are some of the positive effects of um, social media. So as they're reading, they can do those things. And then again, I'm just going to change this into an individual handout. So page 1 is also individual. Sorry, I just saw something in the chat and I want to make sure I follow that instruction. Here you go. A link to today. But as you're hitting start, and then also up in the classroom management tab, I have the ability to change the pacing. So maybe I change this to student so that way they can go through each page of this PDF and I don't have to change the slides for them. So as they're reading, I have them go through the slides and it just saved me a lot of time just bringing it into Lumio. I'm going to bring it back into teacher real fast. And then, a lot of times I want to ask them some sort of question to review their learning after they're done reading the PDF. So what I did was I actually, Chad brought up exit tickets. I said I use exit tickets a lot. We have ready-made resources that you can just pull. So this was already ready to go as an exit ticket. All I needed to do here was one, add my prompt, and then the students are done. Like from there, I just need maybe add the pages down here that they need to refer to for that article. But I just wanted to give them an open-ended type question, whether they think social media is harmful or beneficial to teens, and they just need to go through these readings, so these 3 pages of the reading, to provide evidence or support for their argument. On page 3, I thought X, Y, and Z to support my argument. So this is just another way that you can show that interactive review for students. Again, it was typically probably me printing out all those worksheets and then handing it for a student. And if you're coming across anything that you're like, that's awesome, or I have a question, remember, just pop it in the chat. And then finally, another big one that teachers often use is some sort of drag and drop, right? Whether that's a manipulative or some sort of drag and drop activity. For example, maybe it's a worksheet and I have them cut out little responses and then glue them to the right spot. So I have 2 examples here, one for social studies and one for science. So for social studies, maybe I typically would have had someone cut this out, drag it around. So question from Carrie, are you linking this assignment to Lumio via News ELA? So the News ELA, I just downloaded the PDF and then brought it into Lumio. So I'm not like linking anything to anything. I'm just using their resources that I would have used anyway. Let me know if that answers your question. And I'm going to show you how to import when we get into that teacher side. So for this activity, again, I use drag and drop all the time, but for this one, Carrie, I'll be honest, this is the News ELA is the only one that I reused from someone else. So that article, I'm not as fluent in News ELA as I am maybe like ReadWorks or one of them. I didn't know if they had a download button in News ELA or not. But for this one, these are all draggable. So I just want them to determine which statement describes each individual's major contribution to the American Revolution. So they just need to drag and drop into, and everything else should be locked other than these statements. So again, I'm going to just pull them back real fast. And what I would do is I, again, just go to my classroom management tab, make it individual, and now each kid has their own copy of that. I always have my clean teacher handout, so maybe I give my kids about 5 minutes to do this. Maybe they're doing a reading, so maybe I give them more time, and as they're reading, they just drag the right responses under the right person. But again, I always have this teacher handout, so then we can review together, where should this be, where should this be, and so on and so forth. What's really nice, again, I can hop into Carrie's and see her working in real time. So if I did catch her, I could see it moving in real time. I can also say, hey, make sure maybe you need to go back about Thomas Jefferson's paragraph and see if you may have gotten that wrong. So I do have that ability. And then finally, similar concept, another drag and drop. Maybe this was originally, I would for sure do something like this and had them cut out each one of these and then glue them to the right spot. Now they can just drag and drop them to the right place. And I was not a science teacher, so I for sure probably am getting these wrong. Everything else should be locked in place. I used just a screenshot of the original worksheet and just added this little slide with this word bank over here. Everything else is locked in place, so the students can't move it. Only things movable are these responses. And again, I would make this individual, or maybe I have them working in pairs. But again, maybe I make this individual just so I can see how they're learning. And Chad brought it up. We do have like different simulators, so maybe I have them using PhET simulations. I don't think there's anything to do with anatomy in that one, but maybe they're doing some sort of PhET simulation, and then I have a drag and drop activity after it, so I can see how they're doing with the simulation. Again, I can see Carrie working in real time. She's moving those things. Same thing with Chad. I can see him working in real time. So yeah, and you'll know your students. So I see that 2 have started, but I have 4 logged in. I may say, oh, I'm not seeing myself do anything, or hey, I'm not seeing Miriam, or so on and so, or I'm not seeing Chad. You would know your students over time. But I think this is a good spot for us to transition to find out how we can build some of these out as teachers. So I just need you to kind of switch here on me. So I'm going to actually have you leave my class. And you just need to go to the 3 lines at the top of your page. I will hop out of mine. And it should say leave class here in this blue button. I also can remove students as well. And then from there, I just need you to open up a blank tab, like close out that window completely and just open up a brand new tab that just says Google here. And for the sake of today, I am just going to pull up another incognito window. There's so many different ways that you can get in Lumio. I do believe Lumio may be in your app. Sometimes they're here under your app switcher. Down below here, you might see Lumio. Sometimes Lumio will be in like where all your teacher tools are. But an easy way to get to Lumio is just going to golumio.com. Golumio.com. And then it will just bring you to our homepage. And from here, you will just hit sign in up here and then say teacher, sign in teacher. And because JCPS, you guys are Google, you'll say sign in with Google right here. put in your credentials for JCPS. And then the goal here is that you get here to your homepage. If you could do me one little favor and put your ID that you see up here at the top. So mine is always going to be 246157. That's always going to be my class code. If you could just put that in the chat when you get to your homepage and what your class ID is, that way I know we're all on the same page. If you're driving, you probably won't be able to get there. There might be some prompts like are you an adult or minor? What's your region? All of those good things. And let me know if you're having any issues. Your ID is up here to the right. Yeah, for sure, Chad. That is for me a game changer. It's not like everyone's thing, but for me, like I taught secondary and to save so much paper is a game changer for me. You know, sometimes if you teach elementary, you don't have as many students in the day, but I taught over 100 students. And to be able to save some paper was a game. Like when I was in the classroom, Google Classroom just came out and I was mind blown that I didn't have to print everything out. Alrighty, so let's do a quick little walkthrough of what your Lumio homepage entails here. So you'll see your name up here at the top. On the other side, you'll see class ID, but you also have this little icon that says edit class in your classroom banner. If I click on edit class, I have the option to rename yourself. This name is student facing, so this is what your students would see. So if you want this to actually say Mrs. Gray instead of your first and last name, you will want to change that. And now mine says Mrs. Gray. So anytime my students log in, they would see that. They would also, big thing for teachers is this second option here, manage class access. So if I click on class access, you have some options here. So this first thing is that student share link. This is, or not student share link, this is your class session link. So this link is what's going to bring your students into your live lessons, just like you just were with mine. You went through the slides with me, you were doing the activities with me, I was starting the activities. This link is the important link there. So if I take that, that's how you can get into my live sessions. Then this middle icon here is called guest access. So guest access, if I click on guest access, this is really important for teachers. You will want to make sure you turn this off. This is very important for teachers. Let me say that one more time. If you work with teachers though, like for example, myself, Kathleen, we work with teachers, so we keep ours turned on, but anyone who teaches with or works with students, turn it off. This makes sure that kids come in with their credentials. That's a big one. So they can't just name themselves anything and you don't know what student is contributing. And also, this is important because you might want them to work asynchronously or at their own pace. That guest access has got to be turned off if that's the case. And then finally, in edit class, you have this thing called immersive reader. This is defaulted as off. So just want to make sure you turn this on if you want that option for the translator to be on. That guest or that immersive reader tool will want to be turned on. I am going to walk through just some other examples or just a couple more things here before we build. You have some files here. If you are brand new, you might not see any files yet. You do have the option up here in your toolbar to make folders if you want to start getting a little organized. But in each one of these tiles, you have the option to start or edit. So I can start any lesson or edit any lesson. If this is the lesson that I want to do with students, I will want to make sure I hit start. If I want to go back and edit anything, I have the option to hit edit. If I want to check student work, so maybe as I'm doing my lesson, I just did not have time to check that PDF or that math problem example, I just need to hit start and I just need to go back to the slide that I want to check. Maybe I need to check this one. Maybe I need to export the results on this one. I just need to hit start. Start. Then each one of your little tiles, or we call them your lessons, has these 3 dots in each one of them. These 3 dots have some more options for you for each lesson. So you can move them into a folder if you wanted to. This duplicate is extremely important for those that teach secondary. For me, I always have a clean master copy. So let's go into JCPS here, for example. This was my main copy, my main lesson, my master copy. I don't start this lesson. I don't work in this lesson or this file. This is my clean copy, but you will want to make a duplicate. So I'll duplicate off of this as many times as I'm going to teach it. So if I'm teaching chemistry 1 3 times that day, I will want to make sure I make that copy 3 times because I've already run the activities with the previous sessions. So I will want to make copies of that. Okay. So that, and then I would just rename it to period 1, period 2, period 3. So highly recommend duplicating it as many times as you have to teach it. And then a couple more things in here. You have share link. So this is another important option for you. So if I click on share link, 2 links pop up. So if Chad and I were both 9th grade chem teachers or 10th grade chem teachers, and I'm like, hey, I just made this file. I think you'll like it for our lesson on physical versus chemical things. That's me trying to be a chemistry teacher there, Chad. So no judgment. So if I click on this link here and I just send it to Chad in an email, this is his own copy of the lesson. I don't have to worry about sharing rights. I don't have to worry about any of those things. It's his copy. It also will get rid of all the student work in it. So I don't have to worry. He doesn't have to worry about like cleaning it up. None of those things. It's all his. This link is very important in terms of students working at their own pace. So if they're in a live session with me, this link is irrelevant until maybe, you know, I'm in a live lesson, we're doing that social media worksheet, and then I wanted them to do that essay, but we ran out of time. I will want to take this asynchronous link and post this as the assignment on Google Classroom or Canvas. I'll link this on there. Or, you know, maybe I have a blended classroom. Maybe one group of kids are on Chromebooks, one is with me, and then one is doing something else. And the kids on the Chromebooks, I want them to do a couple Lumio activities by themselves. I will again want to make sure I take this link and post it somewhere for them. Okay, so again, this live link is if I want them to come in the session with me. This asynchronous link is for them to work at their own pace by themselves. All right. I don't see any questions about that, so I'm going to keep moving. But if you need that clarified at all, let me know. And then finally, you have this export as a PDF. This is often confused as like, if I export this, I get all the student work. That's not how this works right now. We're hoping, you know, we've talked to developers how teachers would love that option. But right now, if I say export as a PDF, it's just exporting the slides. It's not exporting any student work there. Okay. So that's a little housekeeping. You also, when you get a chance, I highly recommend this Lumio library. If you click on Lumio library, obviously with 1 hour, we're not going to have like all the time to do all the exploring, and I want to build a little bit. But you have different ready-made resources in here that you can take a look at. So if you're about to, teach something about, let me see. Maybe you're about to do some fiction writing and you need some sort of graphic organizers for the students. I can grab this fiction graphic organizer. I can look through and say, you know what? There are some things I really like about it, but maybe I want to just change the text a little bit. I have that option. I can say save to my library. And now it's saving to here, my own personal Lumio library. And it's down here processing. So I can keep going in there and I can keep looking for things if I need them, but I also can search. So maybe I search for chemistry and see what they already have. I'll be honest, there are certain content areas that definitely need some love. So as soon as you start creating in here, if you don't see something, we're always looking for people to add and share their resources that we can add in here. My library, if I come back in there it is waiting for me if I want to edit it. But you know what? I'll come back to this a little bit later. But right under your name, you'll see new or import. This is how you can start a new lesson. If I hit new, you're going to get very familiar with this window. It's the same window that keeps popping up every time you want to add a new slide too. One thing that you just need to note is that you don't need to be an expert in 60 minutes, but there's these little graduation caps no matter where you navigate to in Lumio, and they just give you a quick 2 minute to 1 minute blurb of how it works. It might even give you a strategy of how to use it. So don't feel like you need to be an expert in all things. I'm actually going to open up a new Lumio tab. Just bear with me here. And you know what? I am going to build a couple activities together. You are more than welcome to kind of go on your own path if you want for the next 15 minutes, but I'm going to build some out together just so you can see where certain tools are. But I'm going to do that math one first, that multiple choice math one. Just want to pull it up here so I can see it. Then I'm going to move this out of my way. So I know it's going to be a graphic organizer. So I'm going to hop in my graphic organizers here. And there's all different, that was the social studies one that we did, but I want to use this 2-column one. So I'm going to grab this. It's setting up my lesson. It's always setting it up on the back end in Google Drive in a folder called Lumio, but here it is. I'm just going to change some of the words. So I don't want this to say main idea, and it's going to be locked. A lot of these are going to be locked in place. So I just need to unlock it. And I just want this to say question. Maybe I bold it. Very similar to, if you've ever used Google Slides or PowerPoint, they all kind of work the same. Hit lock again. This one was answer choices. And because it's white, I need to make sure I drag it out so I can see it. Again, maybe I bold this. Gotta drag it out a little bit. And then this one, instead of saying summary, this is supposed to say explanation. And I'm going to bold that, and I'm going to move that there. Biggest thing that teachers just need to know is you can lock things all at the same time. So if you hold down Shift and then select all the things that you want to lock down, you can select them all at the same time and hit the drop down. So each one of these will always have a drop down, and I just need to hit lock. So now they're all locked in place. What I like about having teachers go in on that student side is that you're very familiar with this toolbar up here. So I actually am just going to add A again, this text tool. Click in the space, and I'm going to say what? And you know what? I'm going to make it a little smaller. I don't need it to be that big. And I want it to be black. Yeah, I don't want it to be bold either. This is where my OCD comes into play. And then finally, I'm going to probably go through and add some more text, but a big one for math and science teachers, like I told you, when you type things out for those two subject areas, it's very frustrating because it's not it doesn't look like it's supposed to. So we actually have an equation editor. So this little square root symbol is the equation editor. So if I click on that and then click in the space, I have math type. I also have chem type. So I can go back between the two. But I just want to make that function equals 3x plus 8. This is where things get very important for me. Square root symbol. That is always very difficult to write out when I'm typing typically with text. And then that's that. And then I hit insert and now I have my math equation, which is like huge for me. And then finally, I'm just going to duplicate this because I work smarter, not harder. And I'm going to say drag the check mark to the two correct answers. Maybe I bold 2 so they know they see it. Make this a little smaller. Put this up here. And then all I had to do was that check mark next, and I'll lock this in place. Now, instead of any of these other tools, I have this little shape tool up here. If I click on the shape tool, I have shapes, I have lines, I have pictures I can look up. I can add a link here if I wanted to, but I'm going to go back to that shape tool and I'm going to grab this check mark. Make this a little thinner. Maybe this is green. And remember, this was infinitely cloned because I want them to drag this out as 2 times. Drop down, infinite clone. I can infinitely clone anything, text, objects, shapes. So if I hit infinitely clone, now I have a bunch of these. And then finally was just that like A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, E. I probably would actually go through and actually put the answers there, but then I'll lock that and that's all done. Other things to take note of is these last 2 things here in your toolbar. This magic wand, I can actually turn this into an individual handout ahead of time. So if I already know this is going to be individual handout or I'm going to give them that asynchronous link, I'll want to do it ahead of time. So I'm going to grab this individual, make this individual, and I'm going to call this like the bell ringer for that day. And then I also do one more thing in that toolbar I have instructional audio. So if I need to give them a little tip or little trick or tip, or, maybe I need to read it for them, I have 5 minutes of audio per page. So I can say, boys and girls, remember we are looking for the domain and the function, the range of the function. To find each of them, you have to do X, Y, or Z. Boys and girls, I can hit add, and now they have this talking head ready for them. Chad, you're cracking me up. It's on. Yeah, Chad said he's going to be a Lumio user start of next year. So Chad, I will be checking in on you at the start of next year. So beautiful. So I am going to keep adding. So maybe that next one, I want to do that response. Remember, that's that formative assessment tool. So if I click on response, I could have given that multiple choice. Maybe I made that a response instead, but this time I'm going to just do multiple choice here. And I'm going to say, what is 2 plus 2? And I can put the answers here, 2, 4, 6, 8. It does give me another option if I need it. Now it's going to ask me which one is the right answer. I'm going to say 4. Make sure that's the one thing, the one step teachers forget is to choose the right answer here. You do have the option for multiple answers, so very similar to the previous question here. Maybe this is a multi-answer question. So again, 2, 4, 6, 8. I would choose the 2 correct answers. So it's 4 and 8. That's not true, but you know. What's really nice is I can blend this formative assessment. So 1 could be multiple choice. So 2, 4, 6, 8. And then the next question, I could stop there, but maybe I add another question. That second one is an open-ended. So I can say short answer here, and maybe this is how, in one word, describe what helium is. That's probably a tough one, but again, you want to make it an open answer because I don't want it to be graded. And then I just hit next. Those are my 2 questions. I can add a title here. I can add instructions, answer each question to the best of your ability. And then I can hit finish. And now that response is ready to go for me. I think as soon as you get comfortable with Lumio, you'll see how fast it is to make these assignments. The first couple might take you a little bit of longer time because you don't know where everything is. You might have to watch a recording while you're creating. But if I didn't have to actually like slow down and show you how to do these things, I would be moving very fast and take me like 2 minutes to 5 minutes to make some of these. And then the last one I do want to show you real quick is that PDF. So if you want to bring in a resource from the outside software or whatever, you just need to say plus. Instead of starting with one of these activities, you would say import. And I know that I have a PDF that I can use. I don't have that exact one from News ELA saved to my computer, but I have this PDF here, this option. I have some sort of PDF I can bring in. So this ReadWorks one from about Martin Luther King, I'll bring this one in. It's saying it's importing the pages. Some of them might be locked. It depends on how the creator, sometimes like teacher pay teacher ones are locked down, but it will say like error if it doesn't let you bring it in. This was a multi-page ReadWorks PDF that I downloaded, but I just need page 1 and 2. That example had like a green line. So I've noticed that like some things are locked down from teachers pay teachers, and I just need to like resave it in a unique way. Um, Not everything. Like some things work totally fine. Like I've gotten like um PowerPoints on there and brought them into Lumio, no problem. But like some things will say like locked by the creator, and I don't. Sometimes you just have to like resave it, the PDF, a different way. But uh, email me if you ever run into that problem. We can look at it. And then maybe I add the instructions up here, what they're going to do with that red and green line. I'm going to lock this in place. Again, saving me so much time. Then for something like this, I probably would pass out a green and red pen for all of the kids and print out the worksheet. So now the instructions are here as they're reading. They're using their active reading strategies to, maybe underline things that stand out to them. Red might mean like questions they might still have about it. And then from there, I just need to say individual handout. And now that one is page 1. I'm going to say page 1. And then I would do the same thing here, put that green and red line, and then say page 2. And there are all my little interactive reviews. Obviously, with an hour, we can't do it all, but I wanted to at least show you how to pull in a graphic organizer. That response, how to pull in that PDF. Maybe I add that questioning reflection, that exit ticket. You have all these exit tickets here. Here's one. Now that exit ticket's ready to go for me, but maybe I just need to change the wording here. And then lastly, just need to title it Interactive Reviews JCPS Example 2. That way I know to delete this out of my library. And then I just hit finish editing. And now that file, we're back to square one, ready to go for me. If I wanted to start it up for my class, I can duplicate it. Maybe I'm going to do this 3 times. I can duplicate that. And then I'm ready to go, rock and roll with my classes. I'm going to hop back in here real fast. And then just going to shout this question out. You can pop it in the chat or come off mute. Like, what are some ways that you saw today that you're going to like leverage in your classrooms? Maybe you just didn't have time to create because you were watching me. Carrie said how easy Lumio is to use daily. Yeah, like I think a lot of people think they have to do like start to finish in Lumio, but maybe it's just that interactive review to see their learning. Maybe it's a quick bell ringer in Lumio. Maybe it's that blended learning station that's using Lumio. Chad FET simulations is a huge game changer for that visual learner. And people don't realize that it's integrated in Lumio, and then that translator tool, warm-ups and exit tickets are great to use with Lumio. I totally agree with you guys. Couple things. If you're using Lumio, I would love to see how it's being utilized in JCPS. You guys are one of our bigger Lumio accounts and would love to see how you're using it. And becoming an ambassador, we can connect and talk about how you're using it. Ambassadors get access to other people who are Lumio ambassadors and how they're using it. They can learn some tips and tricks. We also get exclusive perks. So Kathleen was telling the group before, she's an ambassador and one time got actually flown to Calgary to talk about Lumio, maybe at the time Notebook, but we have this community that we're always looking to gain more ambassadors at JCPS. And then you can actually become like a certified trainer and some other things, and maybe you can run these sessions after school. But yeah, something that to consider, and that's all linked here on the bottom of this agenda, and I can pop that in the chat for anyone who needs it. All of these resources, our YouTube channel, our ambassador platform. We have a really great Lumio educators Facebook group. All of that should be linked at the bottom of that agenda. Webinars just like this. Ours at JCPS are wrapping up tonight. This was the last time, but we also have webinars that Lumio runs as well throughout May. You don't always have to attend them because it's a global company, so timing wise, you might not be able to join, but if you register, you get the recording sent to you. We also have a self-paced Learn Lumio Academy. I know it's 5:30, so if you have any questions, obviously follow up with me with that email. But just don't forget to complete your feedback survey in Vector whenever you get a chance. It should be in there. And thank you all for joining me on this beautiful day.